Welcome back to Radio Taiwan International. You're listening to Geek Out. What's your cup of tea? Tickles your fancy or floats your boat? Join us as we share passions from people in Taiwan and around the world. I'm your host, Michelle Chang, and today in the studio we have my very good friends, Julie Kawamura, and Max McCurdy.
Great to be here.
I just asked the question, right? It's like, how do
Either way is
which
great.
name you would, which format would you like? But Max is in the studio today what are we geeking out about?
Well, we're geeking out about tea.
Tea, the word tea, when people think tea, it kind of encompasses a lot of different drinks, everything from, those Starbucks concoctions, all the way to like super traditional and from different regions in the world, right?
True.
So what kind of tea are we talking about today?
We are talking about more traditional tea, a beverage that uses nothing but tea leaves from a single species of plant, Camellia sinensis.
Ooh, Latin, love it.
So yeah, truly traditional tea doesn't need any milk or sugar. There's a natural sweetness to it that comes out when you brew it.
I actually have a little cup of tea in front of me that Max just poured. Is there a particular variation that we're drinking today?
This is a Taiwanese style of tea. It's Tie Guanyin.
Oh, yeah.
Which is traditionally made in the Muzha region in Taipei.
That's actually very close by. I mean, for listeners who don't live in Taipei, the Muzha area is easily accessible by MRT. You take it down the Brown Line, and then there is a, what do they call it? Cable cars that take you up the mountain into an area where you can actually see tea being grown, which is a pretty cool day trip.
Yeah, it's a great thing to check out if you're in Taipei on holiday.
Yes,
for
indeed.
sure.
Okay, so since we're jumping right into this very quickly, what am I supposed to be doing here?
You can drink it,
Oh.
and I think that one of the best ways to appreciate traditional tea is to drink it and try to hold it in your mouth for a few breaths.
Okay.
And not immediate. If you drink it immediately and swallow it, then you will get a fleeting sensation of what it is. Really good tea will develop over time, and it has a lot of texture and it has a lot of resonance, and the finish will be more obvious the longer you hold it in your
Sure
mouth.
thing.
So,
Okay, ready, guys? ASMR warning.
Nice.
Just making sound for the microphone.
Sounds very nice.
Oh, it's actually... Okay, I'm going to try to hold it. I'm going to hold it in my mouth for a little bit, right? Do what Max told me rather than immediately swallow.
Yeah, so while it's in your mouth, if you breathe in, you can kind of take the smell of it.
Right.
and
it's
goes on
actually
your tongue.
quite fragrant.
Yes, it
Because
is.
when we eat or drink, that air is being moved around. So eating is not just taste buds; it's also a scent experience.
Yes.
So that was actually quite nice.
So yeah, anybody who's been ill has had the experience of having your taste buds and your sense of taste becoming quite dull and quite limited, and a lot of that has to do with the blockage in your nasal cavities.
Absolutely, because the cold knocks out your sinuses. So yeah, that makes sense.
So what you're tasting is largely what you're smelling, and the more you can tune in on what you smell and how it smells, and to promote the scent of a tea, the more full the flavor will be, and the more sort of in-depth you can get with it.
It's actually quite pleasant. I did tell Max beforehand that I'm not a huge fan of bitter. I am what you call one of the super tasters. Cilantro is very soapy for me.
Wow. Really?
Yeah. I can't. It's horrible. I mean, I do understand that some foods kind of have to have cilantro in it, like salsa. Kind of needs it, otherwise it tastes a little weird. But I cannot actually just eat a cilantro leaf. It's horrible. That's a terrible experience. So bitter, and even coffee. I'm a coffee drinker. I can't drink straight coffee. Like espresso is terrible. It's must be milked, like cream down.
Yes.
And with me, generally, it's like I'll take a little bit of coffee with my cream and sugar.
Right, exactly.
I agree, 100%.
I think that has a lot to do also with the caliber of the material you use when it comes to tea.
Indeed.
A lot of what people drink as tea in day-to-day circumstances is either tea bags or it's mid-grade or commercial grade material that actually can become bitter quickly and easily. Very high quality tea leaves, the kind that we look for. My company is called Teas We Like.
Yes, please plug your company. teaswelike.com.
We do teas that we like, as advertised on the sticker. And the kind of caliber of tea that we're looking for is stuff that doesn't become bitter, even if you brew it hard and brew it strong. Older teas also benefit from higher heat and longer extraction without becoming overly bitter or vegetal.
Don't tell anyone we're drinking in the studio.
Your secret is
There's actually a strict rule at RTI that says no drinking in the studio. But, I figured for this episode, we can make an exception.
This is a demonstration.
It's a demonstration.
It's a demonstration.
Okay.
Sure.
So, first of all, Max, you weren't born in Taiwan.
I was not born in
When
Taiwan.
did you get to Taiwan?
I got to Taiwan full-time 5 years ago.
Oh, okay.
I'm just past my 5-year mark.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Before then, I was visiting Taiwan on a regular basis because my wife was living here and had been here for a long time. I was in Japan.
Yes. Very long time.
We had a long-distance relationship, and I visited frequently, and Julie introduced me to tea.
So it's because of Julie that you really got into tea.
Yeah, one of my first.
It was an interesting. It was an interesting first time. I remember, how part of the tourist thing when people come to visit Taiwan,
of course,
is you go to these very nice tea spots. So one of the places I always would take people to is Jiufen.
Yeah, Jiufen. Okay. I don't think we've spoken about Jiufen on this show before, but it is it's a great day trip out of Taipei.
Yes.
Buses go on up there, and I believe you could take a train and then a bus as well. It's a little faster. But you go up mountain, and it's a gorgeous view on the northern coast of Taiwan, and they are famous for quite a few foods, but also tea.
Yes.
So it's a fun trip to do.
Yeah, it's really nice. So there's actually a couple of tea houses that I would frequent there with people who are tourists, who would come to visit Taiwan. So I took Max just,
Because we do.
Yeah, because he did. And I thought because he was, I forgot what you were interested in at the time. I think it was you were kind of into meticulous tiny things, which is weird.
Okay. There's a lot of, stuff in Japan and in Taiwan and many Asian countries who are tiny and meticulous. That are very tiny and meticulous. But I specifically like Jiufen because it's so a lot of people say that it's the inspiration behind Hayao Miyazaki's Spirited Away.
Yes.
And one must go there and look at the tea houses. It's just gorgeous.
And at night, the lanterns lit are beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
Yes, it is.
Google it, guys, if you have not seen photos of Jiufen. Jiufen.
Yeah, Jiufen. It's beautiful, gorgeous. So anyways, he was into these, meticulous little things. And I brought him over to a tea house, and I happened to know somebody there that could speak Japanese, but not English.
Okay.
So since Max was learning Japanese, I thought he could understand better if the person spoke Japanese. So she spoke Japanese and went through the whole array of, how you see older people drink tea here in Taiwan.
It's a process.
Yes, it is. So she was going through the whole process. He was just in love with it. And I remember the day that he flew back to Okinawa at the airport, you told me that he actually bought one of those tea sets
right.
at the airport.
The first of many tea sets.
I mean, that's definitely a collectible. I know several people who collect tea items, but the tea sets they can obviously range, but some of them are so beautifully crafted. I can absolutely understand having a whole shelf of tea sets.
It adds up over time. It's true. And then much later on, I started to collect teapots from Yixing, which are stoneware traditional teapots from mainland.
Oh.
And those can add up. You can collect quite a number of them before you realize you have a problem.
Well, traditionally speaking, when you see someone in Taiwan having tea, and there's a lot of stuff on the table, let's describe to the listeners what we're looking at. What I actually see is a kind of usually wooden tray on the bottom. It's like a drainage tray of some kind.
Yes, it is.
Because while you are steeping tea, I think that's the word, then there's a lot of overflow of water. You'd need to pour it out. So, they've created these trays where you can just pour directly onto the tray and it drains.
Sure.
What else comes with one of these tea sets?
So typically, you might have a tray that's for drainage. You would have a piece of teaware that looks like a cup with a lid on it, is a gaiwan
Yep.
that you can use to make basically any kind of tea. It's ceramic, so it's very neutral.
Okay.
You can wash it with soap and water. It doesn't collect the scent or taste of the teas you put in
Gotcha.
it. So this is what you would use to brew the tea in. Then you would decant it into something called a chahai, which is a sort of a pitcher that then you can use to distribute the tea equally to different smaller cups.
That we then drink from.
Right. And so this is a scent cup.
Yeah.
So before you pour the tea into small cups for drinking, you might pour it directly into a scent cup where then you pour it out. You don't drink from this cup. You just pour it out and then you smell the lingering
to enjoy
aroma
the
and fragrance before you even drink it.
Yeah. Okay. So pour me another. Okay.
be
So
glad to.
so walk us through what you're doing right now.
Oh.
We have hot water.
So we have hot water and you pour it directly into the gaiwan
Gaiwan.
and let it steep for a little while. Ideally, you have very, very hot water for this kind of tea.
Yep. I kind of fail sauced getting hot water into a
Oh
studio.
no, it's okay. It's okay. We didn't plan excruciatingly.
Something,
But thank you for getting the water.
Something that you use to judge the grade of tea is the finish, the mouthfeel, and everything that comes out when you brew it with very hot water. All the good things will come out, all the bad things will come out.
How hot is hot?
100 degrees.
Oh, like literally boiling.
Boiling hot. And then
Yes.
everything else would be preheated.
I see.
So you would preheat the gaiwan, you could preheat the leaves.
That's
dry.
something definitely that we see when we do a tea ceremonies. They're constantly pouring really hot water over
Yeah,
all
can
of
I
the
ask why do they do that?
preheating.
Yeah,
why do they
do
preheat?
preheat?
It's the same reason for when in a restaurant, if you have a fish or a steak, you don't put a hot piece of meat on a cold plate. The plate will suck all the heat out of the dish right away.
Ah, that's true.
Okay. So in sucking out the heat, then you suck out like the flavor, or
Yeah, I think it also, if the goal is to drink slowly and mindfully, the closer it gets to lukewarm room temperature, the easier it is to sort of knock it back and slug
whereas-
it.
That's
so you
true,
don't
that's true.
want to knock it back.
You don't.
Okay.
If it is really hot, it's harder. You can't do that.
Oh yes.
You really
Yes.
can't do it. You
can't do
really have to take your time. You really have to be slow and deliberate when you drink it.
So what Max just did was he poured from the gaiwan into the
Sniffer cup.
is it called a sniffer cup?
Like a scent cup.
Scent cup?
Moonshine.
Nose cup?
Yes, in English you might call it a scent cup.
Scent cup.
A scent cup.
Do you want
Oh,
some?
I want to smell. I'm smelling it, guys.
So we're getting
Ooh,
when you
it's
when
actually got a floral hint to it.
and when you brew with less than very, very hot water, the aroma is one thing that's going to be
Reduced.
tamped down
I
and
see.
reduced. So the hotter the water is, the more extraction you get, the more volatile the aromatic compounds are.
Oh, thank you.
The more intense the aroma will be, and therefore, by association, the taste will be more intense.
Okay, so I was just handed a little cup of tea, and then we're going to hold it in my mouth for a few beats, right? So let's see. I can't do what Max is doing without choking on my drink. But I love
That's
it.
very impressive.
I mean, it's impressive, right?
every day.
It's part of the practice, I suppose, to be able to hold liquid in your mouth and
Still
breathe
breathe
in
in.
and out deeply. Part of what you can do to also get a better sense of a tea is to use different parts of your mouth when you're drinking to macerate or aerate the tea. So what I tend to do is, as you heard, on the in-breath, to aerate it with your tongue a little bit, get it a
Right.
little bit air in, and then on the out-breath, use your cheeks to really push the tea around in your mouth. As you're breathing out, all of that aroma from the liquid inside your mouth is going out of your nose.
Right.
So you're getting a very strong sense of the aroma of that. From the out-breath, the first out-breath, breathing in again, I tend to use my tongue. Use your tongue to push it around a little bit in your mouth.
Oh, I see what you mean.
I'd still be choking.
But yeah, I
That takes a lot of practice.
I'm sure it does.
Very
So-
impressive.
Okay, so we're having tea guanyin today. What other teas could you describe for us that perhaps teas we like carries?
Oh, okay. Teas We Like has a focus on a genre of tea called pu'er tea, which is from mainland China, a province called Yunnan, which is typically aged for a long time. It's pressed into cakes of about 350 grams.
Yeah.
And then they are stored in more or less humid climates for a decade or two.
Yeah, I've seen them, and they're actually very dark in color. Really not, green like you think with tea leaves.
Sure. So pu'er tea is an interesting tea in that it kind of sits astride several different genres of Chinese tea. Usually Chinese teas are described by their colors. So you have like green tea, you have white tea, yellow tea, what in Chinese you would call red tea, which in English is black tea, Hong cha. And you have Qing cha, which is oolong, sort of like what we're drinking today, and then hei cha, which is actual black tea. So pu'er tea, the raw kind of tea, that's usually collected and stored and auctioned off, actually.
Sometimes at very high prices.
Very high prices. It starts its life close to a green tea.
Oh, wow.
The processing is very minimal. It's almost in a raw state.
Okay.
And then over time, it slowly develops these deeper and darker notes. So it ends its life as a hei cha.
Oh, wow.
So it will progress from one end of the spectrum to the other over the span of 2 or 3 or 4 decades.
2, 3, 4 decades.
Decades.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this is similar to wine then.
Yes, it's very similar to wine. Pu'er tea has a general base of material that is drank commonly. I think Hong Kong, it's been a kind of a prime zone for pu'er tea for a long time.
Yeah,
in any
absolutely.
dim sum house, they will
serve you a teapot of pu'er tea.
That's the sort of mass market pu'er, like wine. You have $2 chuck or anything in a box.
Box wine.
And then you have things that end up on auctions for hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, that is amazing. I mean, very similarly to wine. Sometimes there's a limited run of some kind of something from a certain vineyard, and in that year they only produced I don't know how many bottles, and it goes for a lot of money.
Yeah.
So
the scarcity does play a big part in informing the price, especially when you're talking about something that generally it matures best in hot and humid climates. Now, the hot and humid weather is good for the tea itself, but anything that surrounds the tea, any kind of packaging, any kind of wrapping, gets stained and ripped and bug bitten, and it does not survive very well.
I found that very interesting. Like looking at, it's still kind of closer to the end of $2 chuck at like the Jade Market. There's like an artist corner where they sell a lot of tea, and the paper it doesn't look like it's I guess higher end, but asking the price, they were asking like 8,000, 9,000, 10,000 NT dollars, which is a few hundred for a cake, and the outside paper was all weird,
moth-eaten,
flaky, and it was kind of gross looking.
So it's a good tip for anyone who gets more interested in actually sourcing older teas, is that if it looks too good for the age that it is, it's probably fake.
Wow.
And there's a lot of fake tea on the market.
Oh yeah, I mean they fake a lot of stuff. I'm sure they fake tea.
Tea is easily faked, at least the wrapper. But the rule of thumb that I've developed is that if the wrapper looks great, the tea ain't.
Oh,
right?
Good one. That's a good one.
So if you're looking for actually old tea that has developed like aged characteristics, the wrapper is not going to look pretty.
Yeah. So for listeners who don't really have very much tea experience, or they just get chai lattes or something, well, how would you recommend someone get started?
I recommend that you go to Teas We Like and see what tickles your fancy. Okay. I think that
they do have introductory sets.
Oh, cool.
We do. We specialize mostly in pu'er tea since that's what we drink. But there is a very large amount of variety in Chinese tea. I think that's something that I didn't really appreciate living in Japan for a very long time. Japan's tea history is very long, and their tea culture is deep. They focus on green tea primarily,
they do.
Almost exclusively, I would say. So to step outside of Japan and realize that that's one color of a large rainbow of teas was an eye-opening experience for me. So oolong tea is usually a good place to start, especially for people visiting Taiwan. I think oolong tea is sort of Taiwan's crown jewel.
It is.
The tea industry here promotes, and even within oolong, there's many different ways and processing and drinking that. So
and it's easy to find, easy to source.
Well, I remember when you first came here and you were getting interested in tea. One of the teas that he really liked here that was hard to find anywhere else was those blooming flower teas.
Oh yeah. Oh, I remember this. We were talking about it.
Yeah.
Very hard to find.
Yeah, so he was really interested in that. And one of the places that you kept going to was a local tea shop here in Taiwan. And we kept looking just for those types of tea. And that tea shop introduced you to oolong and pu'er, actually.
And then you kept going from there.
And then, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how pu'er happened. But then I remember they kept kind of pushing it on you. And you were kind of like,
Well, what did they say? In for a penny, in for a dollar, in for a dime, in for a dollar. Yep.
I think
Fell down a rabbit hole.
The culture, the culture here is also one where prices are stated and tourists are not preyed upon quite as heavily.
Oh yeah, that's definitely a thing in Taiwan. It's a great place to visit in order to try these things because people will not take advantage of you as much as I've experienced other places.
Oh yes, Taiwan people are very nice. In that
So
sense,
nice.
And I think traveling in the mainland without any contacts or without any context of what tea ought to cost
It's more difficult.
can be very difficult, and you can end up becoming frustrated with not making progress as much as you thought you might. Right.
Well, thanks for geeking out with me.
Hey, my pleasure.
And thanks, listeners, for tuning in to Radio Taiwan International. I'm Michelle Chang, and we'll be back next Thursday with another episode of Geek Out.